We're focused on celebrities who were homeless at some point in their lives, whether before or after becoming famous. We're eliminating multi-millionaires who were driven out of their opulent houses for various reasons, but are nonetheless able to afford a modest home. Here are the top 10 celebrities who have been homeless. Chris Pratt. From Everwood, to Parks and Recreation, to Guardians of the Galaxy, he's always been that person. Someone who isn't scared to be a star but doesn't act like one. And isn't it possible that it's because he's been to hell and back? Or, more particularly, Hawaii? He was not only homeless, but also living out of a van near the beach and using pot. Okay, it's not one of the most devastating homeless stories, but as Chris Pratt put it, it's a pretty wonderful location to be homeless. Right? Steve Harvey. This comedian and Family Feud presenter may have gained online fame in 2015 for his embarrassing Miss Universe failure. But when you've been through the ringer like Steve Harvey, you can get through anything, no matter how big of a deal the public makes it out to be. Mr. Harvey has had some difficult moments, as witnessed on Sway's Universe, particularly in the late 1980s. Despite this, he's managed to maintain a spectacular career as one of the most beloved hosts of the century thus far, thanks to his upbeat mood and positive approach on life. Ray Williams. During the 1970s, he played in Minnesota before joining the New York Knicks as a top lottery pick. Ray Williams managed to average nearly 16 points per game over the span of a decade. However, life after basketball proved challenging, and Ray ended up living in his van in Florida following a series of failed business ventures. He eventually returned to Mount Vernon, but died of cancer shortly after, just as he was getting his life back on track. Drew Carey. Some of you may recognize him as the guy with the glasses from The Price is Right, but if you grew up in the 1980s and 1990s, you're definitely well aware of Drew Carey's career as a stand-up comedian and, more importantly, his successful, self-titled show. Drew, like many young comics who looked destined for greatness but lacked the financial means, found himself homeless in Sin City in the early 1980s, eating mac and cheese and selling plasma for $40 a pop as he sought to make his way to California. Sly Stone. With his band Sly and the Family Stone, this funkadelic artist rose to superstardom in the 1960s, and his unique style and charm paved the way for decades of future R&B legends. But, and this is a key one, Sly loves spending his money, and not just on the usual high-end gadgets. He's been known to have a serious cocaine addiction. He's made appearances here and there over the years and is still a musical legend. But his personal troubles, as well as a feud with his former management, are said to keep him in a van and on the streets of Los Angeles. Danny Bonaduce. Danny Bonaduce is the quintessential example of the disturbed child actor syndrome. But the most depressing of his many low periods came when the Partridge Family ended and he became homeless. The former Partridge found himself homeless and living in a car behind Grauman's Chinese Theater, fueled in part by drug usage. It was more embarrassing because the kid was still a recognizable personality who spent the days conversing with fans and signing autographs. It's not all glamour and glory in show business, kids. David Letterman. This beloved talk show presenter, who was born in Indianapolis, Indiana, narrowly missed being sent to Vietnam. Instead of fighting one war, David Letterman began on a road that would eventually lead to the late-night wars. However, before all the enormous ratings and even bigger dollars, Letterman worked as a weatherman and finally moved to Hollywood. Dave lived out of his 1973 Chevy pickup truck on the way there before landing a job as a joke writer for comedian Jimmy Walker. In his pursuit for late-night success, Letterman was able to land on his feet as a comedian, playwright, actor, and even a game show presenter. Sylvester Stallone. When the only light at the end of the tunnel appears to be softcore porn, you've got to be in a bad situation. Sylvester Stallone slept for a few weeks at NYC's Port Authority bus terminal 5 years before he began writing the script that would become Rocky. Sly in a porno looks as ridiculous today as Stop or My Mom Will Shoot was supposed to be, but it wasn't humorous in 1970. Seeing himself as near the end of his rope, his $200 porno windfall most likely kept him on the straight and narrow. Ironically, Kurt Cobain. Kurt Cobain, with his untidy hair, shredded cardigans, ripped pants, and faded t-shirts, always resembled a homeless person. This grunge icon's younger self said that he lived beside the Wishkah River under a bridge and slept in hospital waiting rooms as the unassuming leader of an eventual musical revolution during the late 80s and early 90s. While Nirvana bassist Chris Novoselic dismisses this as legend, Cobain has long believed that it is factual, even documenting it in part in the song Something in the Way. Jim Carrey. Throughout the decades, we've witnessed a slew of superstars rise from obscurity to celebrity, and vice versa, but the majority of them have experienced homelessness during their adult years. Poverty was far from a case of Hollywood gone wrong for Jim Carrey. When Carrey's father lost his work, he and his parents were forced to live in a van. Carrey's rocky start, on the other hand, simply strengthened him and made him more capable of persevering in comedy. There's only one way to go when you start at the bottom. Do you know other celebrities who have been homeless before? Please share it with us in the comments section below. Make sure to subscribe to our channel for more updates about your favorite celebrities.